Did you see the part of the video where the first time I worked with this guy, he came from Public Morals, okay, which was Vice. So what he did was he got into he went into bed with hookers and whatever. He was running around in his panties, as he called them, and he would they made the offer, and he had people. He called in the field team. They got locked up, and he got pretty again. He had a cocktail. And they called in another hooker, and that's what he did. And he was also a card shark. He was a dealer in Vegas. So he.
All right, hang on. Save this for the show. Hang on a second.
Yeah.
Look,
it's very funny.
This is about 4 cubes. Thank you, Mary. I'm gonna roll into. I'm gonna start right now. Right. Let's go. Balestrieri.
Balestrieri.
Got it. Welcome to William Steele, True Crime and Steele, Spotlight Television. This is William Steele with my guest, organized crime detective legend, retired from New York City, former detective Louie Balestrieri, better known as Louie B for those of us who are pronunciation challenged. Louie, welcome to my show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're right.
I don't know about legendary now, okay?
You're legendary. Listen. You and I have talked a few times. Dear friend Fran, let's give Fran a shout out. She hooks people
Wonderful
up
lady.
with interviews, and she does casting, and she's very helpful in the industry. Let's give her a shout out, and we're gonna put her a link to her things on it. She's given me many guests, and they're always high quality. And you have just come out of the shadows, basically, but relatively recently. You've got a book coming out soon. And we're going to get to your career in a little bit in chronological order. But so
here it is.
This is the book you have being published here in a few weeks, I guess. You're going to the Mob Museum in Las Vegas. And
the Mob Summit.
Once you publish this book, I'll throw the link in the description. It'll help you with sales and promotion and all that.
And I'm very thankful for that.
There you go. So, Louie, I'm a Brooklyn guy, but I ran in the 7th Precinct, Lower East Side of New York in the 80s, where you got your start as a patrolman. 7th Precinct, Hell's Kitchen. Tell us your story.
Hell's
How
Kitchen.
Did you get started?
Respectfully, Hell's Kitchen was up around the 42nd Street and
42nd, excuse me. Yeah.
47th Street and 9th Avenue. That's
Midtown.
That's what Hell's Kitchen was clarified as.
What is Rivington area considered?
That's the LES, Lower East Side of Manhattan.
Lower East Side. Yeah, I just misspoke.
It's okay. It's okay.
So Lower East Side, I ran there. 110 Rivington was legendary. It was a huge dope hole. I was struggling with my audience knows I was incarcerated 18 years, nonviolent crime. I was struggling with a cocaine addiction in those years. And it's a miracle. I guarantee I ran into you because I was in and out of the same places you patrolled. And tell our audience how in the world you went from that, or even considering the way you grew up and the things you've done, becoming like one of the top organized crime detectives in New York City. And now, a well sought after speaker and you're like a mafia expert. Tell us your journey. What in the world? How did this happen?
As crazy as it sounds, I come from a family of 14 cops right now, right down to my son, who's a federal agent. He's a CBP, Customs and Border Patrol agent, and he works out of the airport. When I was growing up, I grew up in Park Slope, Brooklyn, South Brooklyn. And not knowing this, I was a kid. Many people that were in my dad's family were a part of organized crime. They weren't killers or anything like that. They did bookmaking and stuff like that. I lived on the block of one of the major organized crime players out of the Genovese crime family. I lived at 344 19th Street. He lived at 286, which is basically down the block. His name was Tato Marino. He's very, very, very well known. He controlled and ran the neighborhood. My dad's cousin was a bookmaker for him. He worked for him. And at 5 years of age, I was running their numbers every day around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. He would give me a brown paper bag and he'd say, listen, take this down to Uncle Mike. Everybody was my uncle. I didn't know who these guys were. I ran it down to Uncle Mike. They coursed me across the street. He came back. They gave him a wave. He came back to me. They gave me $5. Now, in 1964, 65, $5 was like 500 today. Okay. And I used to go around the corner. I was like the Pied Pipe. I buy all the kids ice cream. And then one day my mother said to me, where are you getting all this money from? I said, getting it from Uncle Jim. And I had about $200 in my piggy bank. And she gave me an ass whipping, and that ended my numbers running career. From there, I moved to East New York in the confines of the 7-5 precinct. Now, East New York was dominated by Gambino and Lucchese and Bonanno organized crime figures. Now, I grew up with a lot of the guys that were around Paul Vario, and I went to grammar school, and many of the kids that I went to school with, their fathers were organized crime figures, and they also had cousins and this and that, and it was all around me. It was constantly around me, but I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know who these people were. So from there, I went to Christ the King High School. When I got to Christ the King High School, I started banging out with the Italian guys. The majority of them came from Howard Beach. If anybody knows Howard Beach, it's a predominantly Italian area where John Gotti came from. And I'm hanging out with these guys, and they're all affiliated or sons or nieces, nephews of organized crime. One of the guys that I hung with was the nephew of Joey Gallo. Okay, great guy. He's now passed on. May God rest his soul. And like, you know, this is what I did. Some of the guys I hung out with are now dominant organized crime figures in certain families up to the rank of capo. Now these guys are my buddies. I didn't know any better. You know, I was doing things that I shouldn't have done. I was a young punk. You know, I didn't know any better, but I still had a fascination about being a cop because I used to hear my father and his brother tell cop stories. And, you know, when you become a cop, you lose all your friends because nobody trusts you. So the only people I hung out with my family were other cops and their families. Okay. So that's basically what I did. I was doing stuff growing up in Brooklyn. I was doing stuff I shouldn't have done. When I was 13 years of age, excuse me, I was sitting in my backyard, and a truck goes flying by. And the truck tried to make a turn and hit a curb. Behind that truck is a police car with two cops chasing them. So the cops jump out of the car. They're chasing these guys who jumped out of the truck, and the rear door on the truck was open. So what do? I go look in the truck, and at the time, ladies' pantsuits were very, very popular. So what does Lou do? Unloaded the truck and put it in his garage. Within a week, when things cooled down, I became a ladies' pantsuit salesman. Okay. And I just thought, I didn't think anything of it. I thought I was doing something good. And, you know, I was 13 years old. Was I stealing? I don't know. Another time, my dad came home and he says, I got home late. A truck fell over. And I said, what did happen? He says it was a sod truck. It says a sod truck. Where did it happen? It happened on Condor Boulevard. So I run across the street. I grabbed this guy. We call him Frank the Guinea. He did concrete work. He was from Sicily. Tough guy. He was older than me. I said, Frankie, get your truck. What are we doing? Shut up. Just get the truck. We got the truck. Went over, picked up all the side. Everybody on the block had new runs that summer. I thought I was doing something good. What do I know? So that's the atmosphere I grew up in. Hung out with all these guys, nice guys. You know, I did some stupid things. One of the things I did, I think it's beyond the statute of limitations. I went to get on a bus, and I got on a bus, and you needed a nickel to ride the bus. We had a bus pass. You showed a bus pass, you put a nickel. I didn't have the nickel that day, so I showed the bus pass, and I made believe I put my nickel in the thing. So what does this guy do? He says, you didn't pay. He throws me off the bus. Now, if you get thrown off the first bus, you got to wait like 45 minutes for the second bus. I said, I'm going to fix this guy's ass. So I gave him some time to forget, and I waited. And I got on the bus, and I had to get off around Sutter Avenue So we rode for some miles, and the bus was jam packed. And I set off when I was getting off the bus. I dropped a tear gas canister and I set it off inside the bus. Just the same driver drove the bus every day. I set it off, and I watched the bus go about a half a block, and people are running and screaming off the bus. It made the news and this and that, and I just smiled. That's the way we grew up, you know.
I already know. I grew up the same way in Brooklyn. You did whatever things you did back then would get you 20 years today.
I could never do what I did. Let me just say this: I was not a gangster. I wasn't affiliated with any crime. I was an opportunist criminal.
Opportunist. You stole the words out of my mouth.
It's you know, something happens, and you take care of business. There was a car accident on the corner. They pulled the car to the curb. Before the tow truck came, that car had no tires, no battery, no radio.
Right.
And
no one needs the parts. Might as well
insurance company was going to pick it up anyway. So, is it right? No. Is it wrong? I know how wrong it was now, but I never did things to an average guy. I always did things against Macy's and Gimbals, if that makes any sense.
Big time. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in those days, we steal cars, right? Everybody knows I made a lot of mistakes, deliberate mistakes. So I was more like a little more calculating. So if we had a stolen car and we did what we wanted to do with it, and we wanted it to be found, we would generally leave it like in the hood or in Coney Island somewhere with the keys running. And somebody would inevitably take that car to get their prints all over it.
Absolutely.
And they'd get pulled over the car that I did a bunch of dirt in. But also, if you left it on the side of the road and told the neighborhood guys, hey, that car's, hot, whatever, they'd have that stripped down in a few hours. Not only that, I remember back in those days, wouldn't the sanitation or the cops put some yellow markings on the windscreen and wait to be once anybody saw those markings,
was called rotation tow that would come and pick it up. And
right. So once anybody saw those markings on it, it would get cannibalized within hours.
Yeah. It's world famous for being put on milk crates.
Right.
Milk crates, the metal milk crates with the jack it up, slam the milk crates under there and take out all the tires.
On the interior and then whatever else.
The
doors, the hood.
Yeah. I've done a bunch of those things to guys I locked up. I'm going to take your car. You can't take the car. Oh, okay. All right, no problem. I took them to the station house, and I left the car there with the hood up and the trunk open. When I got out of jail, they had a shell. Right. Okay, you sure you didn't want me to voucher it for safekeeping? That's the way it goes.
Right, you leave it on the side of the road, looking vulnerable. In New York, it will get stripped within like an hour.
It wasn't common for the longest time, but it's becoming the new norm. They're doing it all over Queens and what have you. I was never a car guy. That was not my forte.
Right. Yeah, I was dealing with a lot of chop shops. There was a time in the long time ago when I was a young guy, and we were stealing cars. Later on, I would go to car dealerships and take a test drive. If the chop shop needed something, I put on some hospital scrubs and I'd say I'm going out for a test drive. And half the time they trust you with the car, but even if they don't, I'd say, hey, this car's pulling really bad. When we get back to the lot, I got to get back to the hospital. Let's give me your card. I'll take a look at the other one. But this one's pulling. You got to check the alignment. I don't feel safe driving it back to the dealership. You want to take over the wheel? As soon as the salesperson would step out, I'd hit the gas and leave the salesperson on the side of the road.
And that's the way it goes.
Right to the chop shop, bam, special order cars. Well, now, I don't glorify this. We're doing crime prevention, and there's ways to prevent this thing. So you guys got to read some of my upcoming books and watch my other shows for how to prevent these things. But you need to vet who the heck you're letting in your car. You need to take photocopies of their license and know who you're dealing with.
Absolutely. Well, you came from a different era. Today you have cameras. Cameras kill everybody.
Right.
Okay? I don't do anything anymore.
Right.
But what happens to me then, I move out to Long Island. And when I moved out to Long Island, I was, I wore leather jacket, diamond pinky rings, because that's what I grew up. We went to Christ King High School. These guys dressed sharp. They were all wise guys' kids. So hey.
Hey, there you go. That's a thumbnail. Let's do this. Ready?
How you doing?
How you doing? We got both up. He's holding up his pinky ring with me.
I move out to Long Island.
I still drive a black caddy. Go figure.
Do you?
Yes.
I drive a truck.
Okay. You've been in the South too long. You gotta get back.
I just love a truck. It's just safer for me.
I think I have an image of one of your vehicles here. Hang on a second. Where is that thing? Okay, keep talking. I'll put it on the screen when I figure out where it is.
I think that's me doing judo. I'm a judo coach.
Right.
Those are my nephews.
Judo coach. I'm looking for this truck.
Oh, the truck with the Mafia plate?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I have on the front plate.
Anyway, I could throw it in later probably if I can't find it at the moment. There it goes.
There it is.
There you go. Nice commercial for Ram with a top Mafia cop, one of the top Mafia investigators in the history of the New York.
I don't know about that, but I did okay.
You're too humble.
Listen, I work with a great team of guys, and we didn't get the credit that we deserve. And that's one of the reasons why we put out this Operation Wasteland, because sadly, my team, we were the bad news bears, and everybody was an accomplished detective, and we got stuck in this team, and they turned us against each other, and we wound up grabbing a fire-breathing dragon by the tail, and we turned this whole thing around and wound up doing the largest organized crime case in the history of New York law enforcement. We were supposed to get promoted. We never got promoted.
We're going to circle back to that.
We'll get back to that.
We need to know how you got there because
the saddest part about that is in my team, we were a team of 11. 6 people are now passed on. Right. And they will never reap the benefits of what I'm reaping now. They will never get the credit for what they deserved. And we fought, we throw stuff at each other, but I love them all dearly. Looking at it now, they were great people. Okay, getting back to where I came from. I wound up moving to Massapequa, Long Island. Little do I know, Massapequa, Long Island is full of organized crime people. Carlo Gambino lived on Club Drive.
That's right.
In Massapequa. A guy next door to him was a very prominent underboss for the Gambino crime family.
One of my best friends, Tom Madden, vice president of NBC, lived in Massapequa. He has a transmedia group in Boca right now. He's a public relations guy. And Carlo Gambino had another house about a block from my house in Brooklyn. And as a little kid, I'd go to school and he'd pat me on the head. Hey, Billy, stay in school.
He was a very low-key, nondescript guy. Yep. As I understand it, I'm getting this secondhand. His sons bought him a brand new caddy. And somebody noticed that he had a caddy. He said to his kids, get rid of it. And he went out and bought a Chevy.
Yeah,
okay. He never spoke. If you talked to him and you were at a meeting with him, he was.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
That meant there was a signal for money, and he had his own. And I never saw this. I never worked with the man, but I went to school with, I believe, is one of his granddaughters. Another guy that was prominent in the Massapequa area was Roy DeMeo.
Right. He was a killer, stone cold killer.
He was a stone cold killer.
Yep.
I happened to meet his daughter. I happened to meet his son. And my wife owned an Italian ice store in Massapequa. And Albie, who was Roy DeMeo's son, used to come and visit me all the time. And he always thought that the feds were following him and this and that. And I tried to tell him that's not what's happening, because this was ingrained in him from being around his dad.
Right.
And he sat down with me, and we used to have espresso and pastries in the store. And he put me in his book called Sins of My Father. Mm-hmm. And he gave me a whole chapter or whatever. And he didn't mention my name, but he says, I met with this guy from the Organized Crime Strike Force, which I wasn't a part of. I was with the Organized Crime Investigation Division. And what he said to me was, this Italian ice store is a shrine to organized crime. Listen, it was Italian. I played Italian music. I had pictures of the Godfather, this, that. It was just the motif that I chose.
What was the name of the place?
Yvette's Italian Ice Palace.
Okay.
It was phenomenal. We had 60 some odd different flavors of Italian ice and gelato.
You sold it. Now, what's it called today? Do you know?
I got rid of it. Because what happened was we did so well, everybody came around us and started opening up Italian ice stores. So if you lose 2% to this guy, 3% to that guy, 4% to that guy, because you don't buying Italian ice, you buy it by convenience. You wouldn't go into Manhattan just to buy an Italian ice.
Right.
You'd eat in a pizzeria and they'd have Italian ice there. The ice wasn't quality, but you didn't know. My ices were top of the line, but that's the end of there. So I meet this guy and he puts me in his book and he said, talking to me was therapy for him. And I try to tell him, you're making yourself crazy for no reason. Cops don't operate like that. The FBI doesn't do the things that you think they're doing. Wiretaps is something that people, oh, my phone is clicking. They must be listening. No, that's not the way things work. Right. It takes a very long time to get an eavesdropping warrant. Okay. And the affiant on that warrant has to develop probable cause. And then he has to take that probable cause and bring it to a judge and convince the judge that there is illegal activity going over the phone, and the phone is being used for that. Now, with an eavesdropping warrant, if we're doing, let's just say, a drug wire, okay, where they're selling coke or whatever, and they're using the phone to sell coke, buy coke, or whatever. If they start talking about doing burglaries, I'm not allowed to listen to it. Right. I have to go back to court and get the eavesdropping warrant amended. So now I can listen to that. And also, I couldn't listen to you talking to your wife about things. I couldn't, unless your wife was also a key player. I couldn't listen to you talking to your doctor, your priest, your rabbi, your attorney. Now when you listen on the wire, I have to listen. I could listen for, I don't even remember what the stipulation is, maybe 45, 60 seconds. And if you're not talking about crimes, I have to shut down. And then I give it some time and I go back up and try to catch you talking about illegal things.
Wow, that's pain. That's a pain.
I hated doing wiretaps.
You would think these days they can record the whole conversation, run it through AI, and AI could spit out where the crimes are being discussed.
Listen, but it's still a violation of people's rights. You can't listen to everything, So when somebody goes, they're listening to, they're not listening to you. It takes a long time to get an eavesdropping warrant. It's not two guys in a van with shirts and ties on like you see on the TV with things on their head. We got what was called plants, their covert locations. Right. And basically all of these eavesdropping things, they came through the phone company. Remember, I'm doing this here more than 20 years ago. I'm sure things have gotten a lot better. The amount of equipment that we had way back when is surely primitive now. But, another thing, people think that I'm wearing a wire. I never wore a wire. Okay. And I worked in a undercover capacity for several years. So, they touch you. Guys want to pat you down. They're looking for, tape on your body with a microphone. I didn't do that.
That would be more something like a CI would wear. Somebody you arrest.
Not necessarily. A CI is a confidential informant. The majority, I bought Asian heroin. I was drafted into a team. We can get back to that in a little while if you want.
Let me ask you this. Go back to the parameters for getting what is it, like a Title II or whatever they call it?
Right. Title III.
Right. So to get one of these wiretaps, right? I know you said it's very limited in scope. Conversations that are privileged, like you said, with doctors, priests.
Right.
Can't listen to personal, intimate conversation. Can't listen to. You have to listen for a second and tune it out. And I know you told me in our conversations that one of the guys did that, and he listened to it and he shared what he heard and he got in trouble for it, right?
We all got in trouble.
So you all got in trouble. So yeah, so it is a big deal. You know, everybody
Oh
tries
yeah,
to
yeah.
play by the rules because if not, then there's lawsuits and all that, and you can't
Could
edit
be.
anything either. If you edit it, you can get charged with tampering with evidence and everything else.
Exactly, exactly.
The other thing I wanted to ask you is, now I was a law clerk, and when I was incarcerated, I did 18 years. I was a law clerk almost the whole time, so I'm used to reading over, PC, probable cause affidavits, police reports, all that stuff, right? And I know some of the laws in different states. And I think the requirements for search warrants are very much the same. If you're looking for something specific, I think if you encounter something else unless it's in plain sight, it's not admissible. Is that pretty much a similar standard?
It's a gray area.
Right.
Okay. When I did a narcotics warrant, I made sure I put in the warrant any place that could house narcotics. So what I did was I made sure I could go into cereal boxes. I would turn them upside down. I found $40,000 in a pair of pants that were hanging outside the. It was drug money. They were hanging outside a window.
Right.
Okay, there was a. I looked at the pants. They were stiff as a 2x4. I said, something wrong with this. So I opened up the window and I pulled it in off the line.
Hanging in the clothesline.
And in the pants was about 40 grand. My lieutenant he could not believe that I saw that.
Right.
It's just me.
We're a little ahead of ourselves. So now, you what made you say because you could have you had a foot sort of in your community and family in both lifestyles. What made you finally decide I'm going to be a cop, and tell us about where you started, because we both have ties to where you started.
Okay. I moved from Brooklyn to Long Island. I get out to Long Island. I meet a guy who owns a pizzeria. I looked at him. I knew he wasn't from Long Island, and we had a few words together. And he told me he's going to jump over the counter, and I invited him, and nothing ever happened. The next time I saw him, we made amends, and I started working as a counterman because I was like 16 years old. Right. And this guy was like my older brother. I was like the young Henry Hill, so to speak, banging around with the big guys. And I till today, I see this guy. I love him to death. He was my older brother. And while I was working there, I didn't know it at the time, but the place was owned by a prominent organized crime guy. Okay. And as time went on, everybody knew that this place was owned by a prominent. So we slid along on his apron strings because people were afraid of us. They didn't know who we are. I had my Mr. T starter set with 17 chains, and you know what I mean. How you doing? Hello, honey. How are you? Everybody wanted to be with us. Everybody wanted to be near us, and we started doing things in the mall that we shouldn't have done, and we controlled the mall. And moving a little swag, a little this, that, but I don't know if the statute of limitations are. So I think
you're good unless it's murder.
No. Never murdered anybody. We were doing things. We were doing shaking and moving. As a group of guys, we were having a great time. Make a long story short, I'm 21 years old now. I'm driving a brand new Lincoln. Okay. I'm making more money than my dad. Okay. And we're doing things. No drugs, no killing people, nothing like that, but we're doing things. 1981, I decide I'm going to get married. So I proposed to my then fiance, my girlfriend who became my fiance. Her father is a retired detective. As a matter of fact, in his honor, I took his shield number, 3559. Oh, nice. When he retired, I took his shield number. That's a high honor. I took my dad's regular white shield number as well. Then I passed it on to my brother. Okay, so I decide I'm going to get out of that line of business. I got to get something. I decide that I don't like. I'm not saying I'm an organized crime guy, but I'm a young fellow. Okay, and I didn't like their pension plan, and I didn't like their health benefits. So I had to do something.
You didn't like the prospects. Too many cops turning up.
I had one close call
too many bodies turning up in trunks in those years.
I had one close call where we had a scam going, removing items from one of the big department stores, and I got caught and the guy got caught, but the guy didn't give me up. He did 7 years. I skated.
Right.
I said, this ain't for me. Okay. It was a theft of a 30-foot ladder. How I got away with it, I have no idea. But that's here nor there. So I decide I'm going to go out and find a job with benefits because I'm going to have a wife. And
that's not a typically shoplifted item right there.
No, but it worked. This guy had a plan and a half. It was fantastic.
Yeah, we work here. We're working on the building. Let's go.
No, these were walking right out of the back of the store. Okay. But I go to work for an insurance company. Okay. I start learning about investments, right. This, that. Okay. And what happens is I start doing shyster things within the insurance company. Okay. Because everybody's got a limit. You got to look for weakness. You look for people's weakness and you could control them. So one of the things that I figured out we can do is you really don't make money in the nighttime marketplace selling whole life policies to families across the tape. You're going to make a few shekels. You want to be in a daytime marketplace. So we had these things called, there's a legal thing that we did. It's called a buy-sell agreement or cross-purchase buyout. Say you and you had a partner in you owned a store or you owned a business, and if you died, your wife becomes this guy's partner. And we don't want that. So what you did was you had the corporation buy a life insurance policy on you. And it's already pre-stipulated that you would, you died, your wife would be bought out by the corporation, and the other, your partner would own everything. Okay, now the funding vehicle for that was life insurance. Now you're doing this with people, 58 years old, smoking 6 packs of cigarettes a day, and he's got rotten teeth, and he's drinking, and he's uninsurable basically. And you'd send a doctor in, and they take your blood pressure because you got to do a physical, and what happens is your blood pressure is 4,000 over 1,700. You're not insurable. Right. So what we did was, we got that paperwork. It went south, and that guy got paid by the insurance company. And we grab another doctor who would take an envelope, and then he'd take blood pressure on your other arm. And guess what? It was 110 over 70.
Now, for my audience, because I have a mixed bag of people watching this, from my reality show, Inmate to Roommate, I have professionals, friends, the Christian community. Taking an envelope in the vernacular of the mob in New York means?
Basically, you're paying off the doctor.
Right, an envelope full of cash. There you go.
He got paid off, and there's just a lot of things that went on. There were other guys within the agency who were stealing cash out of people's insurance policies. I would never do that. I would never hurt somebody that was in the same position as my mom and dad. That's not me. Right. I never did that kind of stuff. Then I went to work for another company, and I learned all about property and casualty. And I knew that if you had a car accident, I learned how to talk to the adjusters. And, hey, how you doing here, buddy? This is my car, crashed. What do you need today? A new hat or a new pair of shoes? Right. They look at you. A new hat, new pair of shoes. And they go, they don't know what to say. So listen, how was your pen? And they look at you like you had 2 left ears. I said, yeah, I want you to use my pen. You know why? Because I got a lot of ink in it. So when I give you my pen, you keep writing. In other words, what I'm telling him is you're going to jack that paperwork up. So right. Either my car or, I might have needed a new front window on my house, but by the time you're done, I needed, I got a roof, a door, or this or that, and the whole house gets painted. You follow what I'm saying? Right. But I learned all this and I started to become a shyster again. So I had taken a bunch of, at the advice of my father-in-law to be, and my dad, I started taking all these civil service exams, fire department, sanitation, corrections. I took all these things, and one day I was home. I had gone through the background for Department of Corrections and the NYPD,
Right.
and I got a phone call, and they said, if you're interested in a job, report down to, I think it was Brooklyn College. I reported there on Thursday. Friday, I was sworn in as a cop, and I never looked back.
Right.
And I had that fascination about being a cop, but I also had that burning fascination. When I decided I was getting married, I got rid of my Lincoln. You know, I bought a Mercury Capri. I became low key, and I just wanted to, you know, be a normal guy. I wasn't, you know, I wasn't a wise guy. I wasn't, you know, we were wannabes, so to speak. But
Right.
I understood how things work. I knew.
You've been around it enough, and then you saw your buddy get time for something you could have got time for.
Well, he wasn't a buddy. He was just one of my cohorts.
Cohort at the time. Okay.
You know,
You talk about Henry Hill from like the Goodfellas, and you know the movie Goodfellas. He's a real life character, actually.
Yes.
And I know that you're working with somebody that was close to him. You want to say
That's correct.
Want to say her name and give her a shout out?
Her name is Lisa Caserta, and she has opened up more doors for me. I love the lady. I absolutely, positively love the lady.
Who was she to Henry Hill and her?
She was his second wife. She's his widow.
Okay, and she's doing what now? What does she have? She has a business.
She is the #1 casting director for mob movies, probably in Hollywood. She knows anybody and everybody, and I've taken a liking to her as I'm taking a liking to you. I get along very well with her. I'm getting along very, very well with you.
Right.
I'm a regular guy. I don't mind speaking. I believe in the truth and nothing but the truth, and that's what I'm here to do. I never realized that there was such a great interest in somebody telling their stories pertaining to being a police officer, a detective, organized crime. And here I am today.
The #1 genre right now for these streaming services, especially, is the true crime. And the #1, I believe, within that, the subcategory happens to be mafia. So you coming out at the time you're doing right now, you're like in the golden era of this.
Yes, yes.
Like a lot of the guys you'll see are the same guests over and over again, telling the same war stories over and over again. You know, and there, a lot of them are former wise guys who are like, you know, embellishing or enhancing, or they're gossiping, they're at each other.
Right.
I don't participate in any of that on this show. I keep it.
I would never do that either.
I lean towards crime prevention, and you are a straight shooter. We got to know each other. You don't even sugarcoat the bad things you've done, you know, and you know, off in your past. And I am grateful that I'm one of the first shows that you're coming on. You know, your book's going to be phenomenal. What I want to do is take a quick. It's not even a break. We're going to stay on screen, but a shout out to some of our sponsors. So Lisa, you're more than welcome to come on the show and talk about the work you do working with guys in this genre. I'd love to have you as a guest. So shout out to her. I want to show Louie's book again. This book will be out, what, in a few weeks, Lou?
Well, it's probably going to be out. I'm attending the Mob Summit in June. And sometime after that, I'm going to say midsummer, I should have it out there. It has to be edited, and, you know, everybody's pulling out my strings to do something with me. I just got to clean it up a little bit. I got a few more chapters that I would like to add. And it's a very, very different story. It's fiction based on fact. Right. I started, I give you a whole history on organized crime. A revenge served cold is a Sicilian proverb. And what they say is, revenge is a dish best served cold. Right. Now, I also research revenge. Now, each culture, believe it or not, has their own form of revenge. Germans do, Japanese do, and I found it very, very interesting. And
fascinating.
Yeah, it's very fascinating. So I start the story off in Sicily, where my grandparents came from. Now, my grandmother was born in Castellammare di Golfo,
Right.
okay, which means castle by the sea.
Mhm.
And that was the birthplace of Sicilian organized crime.
All right, hang on one second. We don't want to get too deep into the book. We want people to be able to pick up your book. They're going to learn something about from this show, from the Wasteland documentary, which I believe is available now, or is it not public yet?
We have a full length documentary. It's an hour and a half. It's fully edited. We're trying to get it out to the right people that would want to buy it. Funnier. The Operation Wasteland that you see is all the facts of the case, right. But we'd like to also turn that into a full feature film. And I'm the guy that's out there to sell it, because some of the things that took place in that film, which I'll explain in a little while, you cannot make it up. It's absolutely hysterical.
So let me go on to the other things we're going to be talking about with our other sponsors and my books as well. So we're going to continue talking with Louie. He's not going anywhere. I just want to throw a few of the things on the screen. So as you know, my show consists of essentially 3 co-hosts. Now, Ignacio Esteban, retired ATF agent. He's written over 80 books. Frank Lordy, former commissioner in Ohio. He was framed for corruption, got exonerated, and wrote a book about it. And then my beautiful and brilliant fiance, Dr. Mary Bass, there on the screen. She's a forensic accountant, a data scientist, public interest technology expert in nonprofits, and phenomenal. She's actually built racketeering cases against individuals. She's assisted in that. There's the cover for Ignacio's book, my other co-host, ATF Undercover, his time as an undercover agent with ATF. This is something we put together on a recent. So for your fans who might not know who I am, that's me on the screen there, and what I do. And I have a reality show on A&E Network, which I don't have an image of that at the moment to put on here. But let me show you Frank's book, Framed Innocence. That's Frank Lordy's book. All these links for our books and for Louie's book are in the description. These are all sponsors and co-hosts of the show. I write books as well. My first book, Section is Serial Killer, Sensational Impure, is about the wealthiest serial killer in American history, Robert Durst. This story is currently airing on HBO Max right now. It's called The Jinx. And if you look in the top on the gold band, Nancy Grace covered my particular first book that I wrote this while I was still in prison on her podcast. She's the queen of true crime. They call me the king of true crime. I have a reality show called Inmate to Roommate on A&E Network. And again, I'm doing this mostly for your audience, Lou, so that they know who I am as this host.
Thank you very much.
Yep. I have like 12.3 million on TikTok. I did so much time in prison. I was a law clerk. We worked with the wrongfully convicted. I did so much time in prison. I got out. I didn't even know what TikTok was. And the fans said, "Hey, you're blowing up on TikTok." I said, "What the hell is TikTok?" This is the book I put out last week. It's a true story about a bank vault heist in Chicago and my crime prevention techniques, because I was a jewel and art thief. I turned my life around. Now I give crime. I show how this could have been prevented. And there's a few other ones, but so we're going to leave it at that for now. And this, I think, came off the screen. So can I get some help over here with my assistant? I don't know how to take this back off the screen. I was locked up a long time. If it wasn't for Mary, I wouldn't get through half of these shows.
If it wasn't for my daughter, I couldn't put the computer on.
There you go. So we gave a little shout out to everybody involved, and just check out our stuff. Ignacio is the new voice of History Channel's Gangland Chronicles. Go figure. I have a reality show on A&E Network called Inmate to Roommate. Season 2 is this, a week and a half from now, the 30th. You turn on your TV, you'll see, like, it's for the last few days, every time I turn on my TV, the thing for my show is like right there. It's like crazy seeing yourself on TV every time you turn it on for the cable channel. It's pretty cool. So we're going to try to hopefully move you to that level between us, Lisa, your agent, and the things that we're capable of pulling off now, the connections we have. Let's collaborate and continue doing this.
Let me just say this here. If none of this works, I'm going to go back to doing porn.